Today I'll be discussing some frequently asked SAQs in oral surgery. The answer to these questions have been given in various books and the matter is quite vast. So I have tried and collected the matter from various books and in order to create a good scoring answer to it. So this presentation is guided by Dr. Bhushan sir. These are the questions that I am going to discuss. The first question is define pain and enumerate methods of pain control. Definition. Pain is an unpleasant emotional experience usually initiated by a noxious stimulus and transmitted over a specialized neural network to the central nervous system where it is interpreted. Methods of pain control. So there are total 5 methods of pain control. First is removing the cause. Whenever any cause is there for pain, there are some environmental changes occurring in the tissue which further excite nerve endings and impulses created. So it's so obvious if we remove the cause and there will be no any pain. Second is blocking the pathway of painful impulses. So this is the method in which the pain perception will be affected because here we are using the local anesthetic drug which directly prevents the depolarization of nerve fibers. Third is raising the pain threshold. So in this method we use the analgesic drugs which raises the pain threshold and interfere with the pain reaction. Fourth is preventing pain reaction by cortical depression. So in this method, the general anesthetic drugs are used, which directly suppresses the central nervous system, and so there will be no any conscious reaction for the pain. Fifth is using psychosomatic method. So psychosomatic method is the method in which we don't need to use any kind of drug, but here pain perception and pain reaction both are going to affect because here we have to gain the patient's faith and confidence. Patient should be assured about any unpleasant sensory experience and the discomfort that they are going to feel after the procedure. Now these were the methods of pain control. Now the second question, what is the mode of action of analgesic drug? To control post-operative pain after oral surgery, analgesics are prescribed. Analgesics are the drugs which relieves pain. These drugs act in various ways on peripheral and central nervous system. So peripherally, NSAIDs are used and centrally opioids are used. Mode of action of NSAIDs. So NSAIDs interfere with production of prostaglandins in surgical wounds. So there is conversion of arachidonic acid into prostaglandins by cyclooxygenase, which is inhibited by the NSAIDs. Arachidonic acid is nothing but the fatty acid which is present in the cell membrane. So prostaglandins are nociceptive compounds. Nociceptive compounds are the compound which give sensation for the pain. So they enhance pain by sensitizing primary afferent nerve, that is the reduced threshold at which these nerves are activated to send signals to central nervous system. Reduction of prostaglandin in surgical wound results in diminished intensity of pain by elevating threshold at which pain afferent nerves discharge. So most commonly NSAIDs used in dentistry are the ibuprofen and diclofenac sodium. Then coming to the centrally acting drug, that is opioids. So all opioid produce their effect by acting on specific opioid receptor like mu, kappa, delta. All opioid receptors are G protein receptors and they are present on the prejunctional neuron. As we can see in the diagram, the blue colored receptor. So stimulation of these receptor inhibit adenyl cyclase that decreases the intercellular CAM product formation, which also facilitate the opening of K plus channel, leads to hyperpolarization. They inhibit the opening of calcium channel, and all this result in decrease in intercellular calcium, which in turn decreases the release of neurotransmitter like dopamine, GABA, and this is how the opioid work. Now coming to the third question, that is enumerate various infiltration techniques of local anesthesia. In local infiltration, small terminal nerve endings in the area of dental treatment are flooded with local anesthetic solution. So there are total 5 infiltration techniques. The first is supraperiosteal, also known as paraperiosteal. So this is the method used for anesthetizing large terminal branches, which is mostly given in maxillary teeth than the mandible, as maxillary bone is porous and the mandibular bone is dense. Target area for this injection is apical region of the tooth. Landmarks are mucobuccal fold, crown of tooth, root contour of the tooth. As we can see in the first diagram, the yellow shaded area is the area which is anesthetized after the infiltration is given. Now, second technique is the intraosseous technique. This is also used for anesthetizing terminal nerve endings at the site of injection and in adjacent soft tissue and also hard tissue. So indication is for single or multiple teeth in a quadrant. This is used in the mandibular teeth. So injected directly into the bone or beneath the periosteum. So special syringe is used in this method like Stabilant system or X-tip intraflow. Then third method is intraseptal technique. It is a variation of intraosseous technique. Indication is when both pain control and hemostasis are desired for soft tissue and osseous periodontal treatment. So in this method, firstly, superficial mucous membrane will be anesthetized and the intraseptal injection will be inserted on the either side of the tooth, as we can see in the second diagram, the marked area. Solution is forced under pressure into cancerous bone, proximating pericentum as well as apical nerves. The fourth is intra-alimentary technique, also known as periodontal ligamental injection. So it is used for anesthetized for terminal nerve ending at the site of injection and at the apex of the tooth. Indicated for pulpal anesthesia of one or two teeth in a quadrant or isolated teeth in two quadrants to avoid the bilateral infraalveolar nerve block. So if the tooth is single rooted, then the injection will be injected on mesial distal sides or buccolingual sides. And if the tooth is multi-rooted, the injection will be injected over each root. Now the fifth technique is intrapulpal technique. In this technique, the pulpal chamber and the pulp canals will be anesthetized. So indication is for endodontic treatment, and anesthesia is best achieved by a combination of pharmacological action of anesthetic solution and the pressure used to apply during the insertion of the injection. These were the infiltration techniques. Now the fourth question, explain technique of tuberosity approach for maxillary nerve block with complication. Maxillary nerve block of tuberosity approach is posterior superior alveolar nerve block. As we can see in first diagram, posterior superior alveolar nerve lies at the posterior border of maxilla. So the landmarks for this blind block is mucobuccal fold, second premolar, maxillary tuberosity, zygomatic process of maxilla, infratemporal surface of maxilla. As we can see in third diagram, the mucobuccal fold is firstly pulled and over the second molar, the injection is injected. In the second diagram, we can see around the maxillary tuberosity in the infratemporal surface, this injection will be injected. Now the technique. A 27 gauge short needle is used for this technique because the distance of soft tissue and the nerve is 16 mm. That's why we use short needle in PSA nerve block. Area of insertion is above the mucobuccal fold of maxillary second molar. Target area is posterior, superior, and medial to posterior border of maxilla. Landmarks are mucobuccal fold, maxillary tuberosity, zygomatic process of maxilla. Orientation of bevel should be towards the bone. Now procedure. Firstly, position. The position is very important. So the patient's position should be like that. That maxillary occlusion plane of the patient should make 45-degree angle with the floor, and the operator can stand 8 o'clock if he's a right-handed person, and 10 o'clock if he's a left-handed person. Then basic preparations are done. In basic preparation, we can dry the tissue with a sterile gauze, and also it's optional, but we can apply the topical antiseptic or anesthetic. Now partially open patient's mouth, pulling the mandible to the side of the injection. It will give more access to the insertion site. Then for visibility, retract patient cheek with the finger, pull the tissues at the injection site top. Insert the needle into height of mucobuccal fold over a second molar. Direction of needle is upward, inward, and backward in one movement. Upward is superiorly at 45-degree angle to the occlusion plane. Inward is medially towards the midline at the 45-degree angle to occlusion plane, and backward is posteriorly at 45-degree angle to the long axis of second molar. Then advance the needle through the soft tissue to the desired depth. Aspiration is done in two planes to check whether the needle is not in the vessel, and slowly over 30 to 60 degree deposit 0.9 to 1.8 ml solution. Now the complication. The first is hematoma. This is produced by the over-insertion of the needle far posteriorly into pterygoid plexus of veins, and in addition maxillary artery also get perforated. So a visible intraoral hematoma develops within several minutes, usually noted in buccal tissues of mandibular region. Bleeding continues until pressure of extravascular blood is equal or greater than that of the intravascular blood. Ice pack can also applied extraorally, and anti-inflammatory drugs can be given. Here we can't use the digital pressure because the site of the hematoma will be not that much accessible and it will be so painful for the patient. The second is mandibular anesthesia. Mandibular nerve is located near to the PSA nerves. So lateral deposition of local anesthesia solution to the desired location may produce the mandibular anesthesia. Patient complains of numbness of tongue and the lower lip, but it regresses over the time. Then fifth question, which nerve block will be useful for periapical surgery in maxillary anterior teeth? Give 3 landmarks for the same. For periapical surgery in maxillary anterior teeth, we will need the infraorbital nerve block. These are the landmarks for it. So first is bony, then muscular, then vascular. In bony, there is pupil, supraorbital ridge, supraorbital notch, infraorbital ridge, infraorbital depression, infraorbital notch, premolar teeth, and mental foramen. Here, pupil is a soft tissue, but still we take it under the bony landmarks only. In muscular, two muscles are there, quadratus labialis superior muscle and the caninus muscle. So QLS muscle lies above the infraorbital foramen and the caninus muscle lies below the infraorbital foramen. In vascular landmarks, so there are two vessels, that is anterior facial vein and external maxillary artery. So infraorbital foramen lies lateral and inferior to these vessels. Now, this is the picture which shows us the bony landmarks. So this is the supraorbital ridge, then supraorbital notch, infraorbital ridge, infraorbital depression, infraorbital notch, then the premolars and the mental foramen. So an imaginary line is drawn with all these points. The significance of this line is that it gives the proper insertion site for the injection. Now the sixth question, that is contraindication for regional anesthesia. Regional anesthesia is loss of pain sensation over a portion of anatomy without loss of consciousness. Also interruption of all other sensation like temperature, pressure, or any motor function. So basically, regional anesthesia is nothing but the nerve block and the field block. It is recommended where infiltration cannot be used. So there are two types of contraindication, absolute and the relative. The first is absolute. So patient's refusal, then the infection or inflammation at the site of needle insertion because it creates the acidic environment. Then third is if patient is allergic to LA. Then fourth is if the patient is below the age of reason, like infant. Then relative, if the patient have any mental abnormalities, major oral surgeries make regional anesthesia unfeasible. Some anomalies make regional anesthesia difficult or impossible, like liver dysfunction, renal dysfunction, and hyperthyroidism. Now the seventh question, explain the action of local anesthetic solution. So calcium ions have a regulatory role on the movement of sodium ions. L is a weak base and it is in the unionized form. And as we know, unionized substrates can penetrate through the cell membrane very easily. So now La is unionized. So it will firstly enter the cell membrane. In the cell, there is a quite acidic membrane. So here it will get ionized and then it will block the voltage gated sodium channel. Then there will be no any entry of sodium ions. So depolarization or degeneration of action potential will not be created. And this is how generation of impulses to CNS will not be sent. This was the action of local anesthetic drug. Now, eighth question, give 4 advantages of using adrenaline in local anesthetic solution. First, it prolongs the duration and onset of local anesthesia by keeping local anesthesia in contact with nerve fibers. Second, it reduces bleeding by constricting blood vessels. Third, it decreases the likelihood of high blood level local anesthesia, which results in decrease in toxic reaction. It also limits the systemic absorption of local anesthesia by reducing the plasma concentration. So this all, in short, it reduces the toxic reaction. Then the ninth question is reasons of failure of local anesthesia. So first is faulty technique. If we don't know the proper landmark or the direction of the needle, then the local anesthesia may get failed. Second is anatomical variation. So there can be double nerve supply or variation in sizes of bone. Also the bone thickness matters. Third is inadequate dose of anesthesia. Fourth is if any pathology is present at the site of insertion, like infection or inflammation. As we know, it creates the acidic membrane, acidic environment. Fifth is if needle is inserted into blood vessel. Sixth, needle deflection. Seventh, in dense compact bone, infiltration doesn't work. Eighth, psychology of patient. If patient is anxious, then pain threshold may get reduced. So these were the reasons for failure of local anesthesia. Now the last question is difference between toxicity and anaphylaxis. How can occurrence and the severity of toxicity be avoided? So difference. Toxicity refers to system manifested as a result of overdose or excessive administration of drug. Anaphylaxis, it is a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction to the antigen. Here it is as a drug. So toxicity is dose related, anaphylaxis is not dose related. Then toxicity there is systemic distribution, but in anaphylaxis there can be localized or systemic. In toxicity there is extension of pharmacological effects. In anaphylaxis there is no any related pharmacological effects. In toxicity there is selective depression of CNS and CVS, but in anaphylaxis there is exaggerated immune system response. In toxicity, the management is different for specific drug, and the management of anaphylaxis is similar for epinephrine and histamine blockers. Now, to avoid occurrence and severity of toxicity, these preventions can be done. First is use of aspirating syringe, then aspirate in 2 planes before insertion. Third, use needle number smaller than 25 gauge. Fourth, slowly inject anesthetic solution. Now the last slide is about the knowledge of MRD, that is maximum recommended dose. MRD is the maximum amount of dose that can be given to a particular patient. So we use a 2% of lignocaine. 2% of lignocaine is 20 mg of lignocaine in 1 ml solution. A cartridge which contain 1.8 ml volume, so will contain 36 mg of lignocaine. Without adrenaline, we give 4.4 mg lignocaine, and with adrenaline, we give 7 mg of lignocaine. These values are given by the FDA. Now, this is the chart which can explain the calculation of MRDs. So always remember the MRD is given in mg per body weight of the patient. So in plain lignocaine, here actually I take the 70 kg as a weight of patient. So in plain lignocaine, we give the 4.4 lignocaine. So 4.4 into 70 kg gives around 300 mg. So this will be the maximum recommended dose for plain lignocaine. Lignocaine with adrenaline will give 7 mg into 70 kg will give around 500 mg. So 500 mg will be the MRD. In ml, so we know 20 mg contains 1 ml solution. So plain lignocaine will contain 50 ml as a MRD, and lignocaine with adrenaline contain 25 ml as a MRD. MRD is very important, and it should be always measured in the patient who have any mental abnormality or any systemic diseases. If we exceed the MRD value, then overdose can take place, and which in turn creates the systemic complication. So MRD is very important. Thank you.